It's the ones that no one imagines anything of who do the things that no one imagines. No one imagined anything of this man. I mean, he was born blind, and while the text doesn't specifically until the end say that he was begging, what else does a blind man do in the first century in Jerusalem? I wonder if when people talked about the problems in society, if he was one of the people they pointed at. Another burden, another mouth to feed, another person not pulling his weight. As if that's all that humanity is, right? A weight, an obstacle, something to push or pull or pass over. How did we become freight? When did we start thinking of people as problems to be solved and questions to be answered and boxes to be checked off and moved on from? When did being human stop being enough? Not enough because of your inability, or not enough because of your zip code, or not enough because of your marital status, or not enough because of your bloodline, or not enough because you can't define socioeconomic strata. Not known for what you are, but for what you aren't. Not seen as Patrice or George or Joyce, just that one. The one who can't see. The blind man, the guy over there, the one on the side of the road. And then that's when the text tells us that Jesus walks by. Not with pity and not with a program and not with a clipboard to verify eligibility. He sees him. And just like that, the story shifts. Not because the man asked for healing, because, mind you, he doesn't. Not because anyone expected it to happen, because no one did expect it to happen, but because Jesus refuses to walk past the image of God, no matter how covered in dust or how long ignored. And the disciples, they don't even ask his name. They don't say hello. They do what everybody else does. They do what they've been trained to do. They ask a question. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents? And just like that, the man's frayed again. A case study, a sermon illustration. But Jesus, he doesn't play their game. He won't let them reduce the man to sin statistics or spiritual fault lines. His response to them is simple. And they speak from formation and ignorance. They've been taught to ask questions like that their whole lives. Someone must be to blame. Who sinned? I mean, it's how the world works, right? Cause and effect, simple formulas. Suffering must mean failure. Struggle must mean fault. It's economics by oversimplification. Theology by assumption. And Jesus doesn't shame them. He doesn't rebuke his disciples with their question. But he does reveal that it's the wrong kind of sight. Because their question is shaped by a world that sees people as commodities. Or worse, a world that sees people as consequences. It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins. Jesus said this happened so the power of God could be seen in him. So that the works of God might be seen in him. Not punished, not cursed, not forgotten, positioned. You see, the blindness in the story isn't the point. The glory is. The glory is the point. And glory doesn't always show up in the places you and me expect, right? Sometimes glory shows up in broken eyes and in overlooked corners, in the dreams we've given up on. Too many wanting a life they can't have. Too many having a life they can't handle. But Jesus shows up there. That's where Jesus shows up, in the dust, in the pain, in the silence where people have stopped expecting good things to happen. Jesus says, you want to find the work of God? Don't look in the temple and don't look to the throne. Look at him, the one sitting in the dirt. Maybe that's all you need to know this afternoon. And if it is, listen very carefully to this. God does not need a clean canvas. God does not need you to be a clean canvas for him to work. He makes masterpieces in the mud. You know, this isn't the first time that Jesus knelt in the dust. You guys remember, right? Just last chapter, in chapter 8, when they dragged a woman caught in sin before him. You remember? Everyone had stones in their hands and condemnation in their eyes, but Jesus stooped down and he wrote in the dirt. Mercy met shame in the dust. And then here in John chapter 9, he kneels again, not to write, but to create. He spits, he makes mud, he touches the eyes of the man no one can imagine anything of. Creation met blindness in the dust. And before both of those, remember to the very beginning, right? It's in Genesis 2, right? God knelt in the dust then, the dust of the earth, and he formed the first human, not from gold, but not from light, but from dirt. He made us from dirt. And he said, you're the crowning achievement of my creation. Life met nothingness in the dust. So maybe this text is not just about healing. Maybe it's about showing us where God does his best work. Maybe the dust is holy ground. Maybe the places that you and I call dirty and broken and unworthy, that's where God bends low to bring life back. The man didn't ask to be healed. He didn't audition for this miracle. He was just sitting where everyone left him until Jesus showed up and touched his life. And when they demand an explanation, the man who was born blind does not have one. He doesn't say, let me explain substitutionary atonement to you. He doesn't say, well, you got to understand that back in Isaiah, he just says, I don't know if he's a sinner. I don't know where he came from. I don't have a seminary degree, but I know this. I was blind, and now I see. That's testimony. That's what turns a person into a witness. And once they say it, they don't stop saying it. His neighbors do not believe him. The Pharisees question him. His own parents distance themselves from him, but he keeps telling the story. It was me. I was that man. He touched me. Now I see. Because when Jesus restores your sight, He restores your voice. What if God is ready to reveal His work in you? Each of you, all of us. What if God is ready? Not someday. Not when you're finally better. Not when you've cleaned up your act and cleaned up your story and you've sorted it all out and your theology is straight and you've got the answers to the right questions. But now, in the messiness that you and me call life, what if you've been sitting on the side of the road for years? Not because you failed, but because no one ever imagined anything of you. What if your faith hasn't let you believe that far because deep down you're still convinced that you are a grave disappointment to God? But hear me. What if you're wrong? What if you aren't a grave disappointment to God at all? What if the part of your life you've tried to bury is actually the dirt Jesus is kneeling in right now? What if the thing that made you feel disqualified is the exact place He wants to open your eyes? What if today is the day that you and me say, I don't know. I can't answer your questions. All I can tell you is I was blind, and now I see.